You're listening to the micro version of the Savage Lovecast. www.savagelovecast.com.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
All the really great sex news, all the big stories seem to break just as I'm about to go on vacation, and then I won't be here for the aftermath, for the follow-up, for the controversy, for the celebrations, because coming now really is the Pokemon Go of teledildonics. It's coming down the pike from a company called camsoda.com, which seems an odd name for a sex toy company. Cam Soda, I don't get it, but PC Magazine reports that you can now have VR sex with real people thanks to this company, Cam Soda, and they've created a product that allows people to have the sex with people who are not there in the room with them. And how does this all work? PC Magazine reports, as Cam Soda explained in a news release, the new experience relies on a male and female synced wearable that passes pressure data from the female toy to the male sleeve. Seems kind of gendered, seems kind of invested in the gender binary, but here we are. The sex toys are coming, the VR sex toys. I have to admit, though, that I found the video that Cam Soda put out just a little bit misleading, because all of the super hot, super sexy ladies that want to have VR sex with me right now are wearing virtual reality goggles, which, when you see the product demonstrated, don't seem to have anything to do with the product or its functionality.
What is teledildonics? Multiple sensors feel pressure and relay it to the sleeve over the internet. Vibrator gets feedback from the sleeve regarding speed and intensity. Sleeve tightens based on pressure it feels on vibrator.
If I may translate for you, it's a vibrator that she can put in her, and it's a trash can that he can put his dick in, and whatever pressure she puts on the vibrator with either her vaginal walls or her fist wrapped around it will then relay a signal to the kind of souped up fleshlight that his dick is shoved in. It will relay signals that will create pressure up and down his shaft. It seems pretty steampunky in the VR world. It seems pretty low tech. You're not going to see the other person. You're not going to be in the room with the other person virtually or in any other way. It's just if they put a little pressure on the female toy, the vibrator, which is not just a female toy, it will relay pressure to the dick that's shoved in the male toy on the other side of the world. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm very excited about the future of sex and technology, the merging of sex and technology. We now are on perhaps the second generation of people who came to age, or maybe even the third generation of people who came to age at a time when your first erotic experiences tend to be solo and involve technology in a really intimate way. Your computer, your phone, the ways in which people now interact with technology. It's no surprise that I think in the future, technology itself will become eroticized, that our gadgets are really going to be a stepping stone intellectually, emotionally, to the coming of the sex robots, the coming of souped up super gadgets. And maybe what Cam Soda here is pumping out with their slightly misleading video with all the hot ladies in it wearing VR goggles and their slightly misleading press release is just a precursor to all the amazing sex tech goodies that will be coming our way and that we will be coming in the way of down the road. Seems a bit of an overstatement to me to describe this as we can now have VR sex with real people. There have been other toys like this where someone could remotely zap your dick or zap your clit with electrodes and a keyboard. So we've had this kind of pass-a-zap back and forth technology in the past. So Cam Soda's product, which, and I'm quoting now, passes pressure data from the female toy to the male sleeve, ain't nothing. I think we got better coming our way in the future. And I think maybe this particular toy at this particular moment, even now, is overhyped. But we have a bright future of sex and tech merging, and sex toys and better technology merging, and the coming of the sex bots down the road. Maybe when I get back from vacation, it'll all have happened. Speaking of vacation, I am out For the next 3 weeks, we have shows, we have tons of questions, tons of guests, all of that is done. But at the top of every show for the next 3 weeks, an experiment for us, something new, we're going to have guest ranters to do the opening of the show for me in my absence. I'm sure you'll enjoy them. They're great people. We lined up some in my absence. So I'm out. I hope all of you are having a great summer, and I'll be back with you end of August with a brand new show, all me ranting. All right, today coming up on the show, tons of your questions, tons of calls, and on the Magnum edition of the Savage Lovecast that you can subscribe to at savagelovecast.com, we have Ira Madison III from MTV here to talk about lust, sex, desire, race, and racism. That's on the Magnum on today's show. This episode of the Lovecast is brought to you by Stamps.com. Buy and print official U.S. postage using your own computer and your own printer. For a special offer, which includes a digital scale and up to $55 worth of free postage, go to Stamps.com and enter SAVAGE. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the price because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/savage and entering the promo code SAVAGE.
This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the easiest way to create a beautiful website, blog, or online store for you and your ideas. Squarespace features an elegant interface, beautiful templates, and incredible 24/7 customer support. Try Squarespace at squarespace.com and enter offer code SAVAGE at checkout to get 10% off. Squarespace, build it beautiful.
Hi, Dan, 26 years old, from Canada, and I got a question about virginity. So, me, myself, I'm very much not a virgin. I like to consider myself a little bit on the varsity side. However, I just met somebody, and things are going great between me and her, but I suspect she's a virgin. So, she's 27 years old. I can really see something there. We've been on tons of dates. We've been seeing each other for about a month and a half now. Here's the problem. Our schedules conflict, so it's really hard to find that alone time. So I haven't actually had a real opportunity to find out if she was a virgin the old-fashioned way. I also don't know how to ask her outright without offending her. The reason I believe she's a virgin is because she confessed that her first kiss was this year. She's had a very busy life since she's graduated school, grew up sheltered. The reason I'm calling in is because going forward, I'm thinking I don't know if me and her will be compatible once the bedroom action starts to pick up. And I don't know if I'm the right person to teach her because I don't think I'll be patient enough once that stuff does start. It's been easy so far because we haven't had much time to really, fool around or do anything like that, but it will happen. And when it happens, I'll be facing a pretty big question. So I guess what I'm asking is, am I an asshole for saying no to this amazing person, great girl, everything else fits, but I don't really want to try to teach her about her own sexuality and find out if she is a right fit for me? Should I go forward and maybe I'll get lucky with her? Give me some general guidelines here, Dan.
Are you an asshole? I don't know if you're an asshole, and this may not be germane to your general level of assholery. All of us are assholes to some extent. It's just some people reach an asshole tipping point where they tip from a little bit of assholery around the edges, which we all have, to just fucking asshole. I don't know if you're an asshole. I don't know you well enough. What I find odd about your call and the way you frame this question, and it's not just you who frames this particular question this way, is this concept of the virgin as some kind of marauding, flesh-eating, crazed, brainless zombie. The way people talk about virgins and getting involved with virgins is like, do I dare date this flesh-eating zombie who might chew my face off? As if virgins are extras on The Walking Dead and they can really fuck up the life of a non-virgin somehow. That if you get bit by a virgin, it's going to ruin everything. Some people who are virgins are very in touch with their body, very in touch with their sexualities, know broadly who they are, and know in a general way what they might like and what they might like to experience or explore, which can be said also of people who aren't virgins. That hopefully someone who's not a virgin knows broadly who they are sexually and knows generally what it is that they like to do. in the sack. And your concern about risking being intimate with this person because you're not sure if you're going to find out if she's a right fit for you. Finding out if someone is a right fit for you is a problem or a hurdle that you have to overcome, even if that person's fucked 8 million people. If that person's not a virgin, and not a virgin in a spectacular Guinness World Records kind of way, you still might not be the right fit for each other. It's not like other people break someone in for you and then they're a good fit for you. Someone can be very experienced and a poor fit for you. Someone can have very little experience or no sexual experience and be a perfect fit for you. There's only one way to find out, and that's to fuck that person, or to be intimate with that person, or roll around with that person, or give that person a chance. And what you're saying is because this person is a virgin, may not deserve a chance. Giving this person a chance, too risky. But if this person had 10 other sex partners before you, maybe you'd give them a chance, even though that person could still not be the right fit for you. And there's, again, only one way to find out, which is to crawl into bed with that person and see. You like her. You get along great. You are attracted to her. You enjoy spending time with her. If there wasn't a logistics problem here, if there weren't these conflicting schedules, you may have already gotten with her or been intimate with her in some way. I say go for it. I say make the time. And of course, the best way to find out if someone's a virgin is to ask them. And it shouldn't be a disqualifier, even if someone's a virgin at 26 or 27. That is the far end of the virgin bell curve, but it is not unheard of. And people who lose their virginities later are not necessarily damaged goods or incapable of catching a groove or bad at it. We have all, those of us who are experienced, been to bed with very experienced people who are bad at it, who have lots of experience and are terrible, despite all that experience, terrible in the sack. And the reverse is true too. You sometimes find yourself in bed with someone who has zero experience or very little experience, and they are just fucking good at it. They have an innate skill, or the two of you click sexually, chemically, whatever, and it works. But you'll never find out whether you two click and whether it works chemically and sexually. If you don't, give this woman a chance, which requires you not to disqualify her based on your assumptions about her virginity and your assumptions about virginity itself and what it means and what it symbolizes.
Hi, Dan. My name is Jess, and I am a 27-year-old bisexual female. I'm calling because I am in a long-distance relationship with a man that I am deeply in love with. Our relationship is amazing. Our sex life is amazing. But with the long distance, I find myself wanting more attention from him since I don't see him as often. He has a very demanding job and works sometimes 10-hour days. So how can I talk to him and tell him that I need some more attention without sounding like a needy cunt? I'm not a needy person. I'm not a jealous person. But I just need him to make me feel special. Is this a case of DTMFA? Or is it something that can be fixed?
I have to say, I'm just going to confess, I'm going to put this right out there, that I had a negative kind of reaction listening to your call, which is all about my biases around being the busy person, because I work 10, 12, 14-hour days frequently. And I am grateful to have a partner who doesn't require my constant attention and constant reaffirming of my affections for him. That can come in bursts, sometimes literally come in bursts, and that will satiate him and make him feel secure and loved. But he doesn't require a steady string of text messages all day, and he doesn't require me to get on the phone and talk to him for hours and hours and hours at night if we're separated or away from each other for a while. And I appreciate that about him, because if my husband was one more goddamn thing I had to get done every day, if my husband was my fourth job, that would disincentivize the whole "you're my husband" thing. I'm glad that we can relax, enjoy each other, and not put unreasonable demands upon each other for focus or attention at times in our lives when we're busy and stressed. Sounds like your boyfriend right now is at a time in his life where he is busy and stressed. Sounds like, I'm just by inference here, when you two were together before this was an LDR thing, he was able to lavish you with the time and attention and focus and strokes and ahas and whatever else you needed in a way that completely satiated your need for attention from your romantic partner. And so this isn't a matter of him not having it in him to lavish you with that kind of attention, or not a desire to lavish you with that kind of attention, but just logistically right now he can't lavish you with that kind of attention. He can't pour that chocolate all over your sundae for you right now because he's away and he's working and he's fucking busy. So what do? I think you take a break. I think you let him off the hook. I think you acknowledge that for the moment he can't be the boyfriend that you need him to be, or the kind of boyfriend you need a man who's your boyfriend to be. And so instead of having an LDR, have a time out. Get back together, if indeed you're both still single, a year or two into the future, when he moves back, or you move to where he is, or you move to a new city together, or whatever. Because presumably this LDR thing, the long distance relationship thing, has a sunset clause. There's a window. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. There's a point at which you guys are circling back together. And rather than him sweating through his long days of this internship, this job, this gig, this PhD program, this med school, whatever the fuck he's off doing, worrying that he's not giving you what you need, that he's not doing his third job well enough, that he might get fired, just before it gets toxic, before you start being angry and he starts feeling inadequate, before you poison the well, just call it not off, call a hold, hit the pause button. Just let it go, let him go, be single for now, and self-sufficient for now.
This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. They make it simple and intuitive to create your website, blog, or online store. You can add and arrange your content and features with the click of a mouse, and they make adding a domain to your site simple. If you sign up for a year, you'll receive a custom domain for free. And if you plan to create a website for your business, Squarespace has all the tools you need to get it up and running quickly. Start your free trial today at squarespace.com and enter offer code SAVAGE to get 10% off your first purchase.
Hi, Dan. 26-year-old straight female, and I have a question about hookup etiquette. So a couple weekends ago, I went out with some friends and mutual friends, and ended up kind of hooking up with a guy that I wasn't particularly interested in, but we were drinking. I'm kind of getting over someone, and I'm in a new town, and it just kind of happened. He went down on me, and then we went to sleep and woke up the next morning, and he said that he didn't remember anything. And then he texted a friend of ours saying, he was asking if I had talked to her about what happened, and says he was really drunk, doesn't remember. Am I obligated to tell him, like, I remember what happened. Am I obligated to tell him what happened, or can I just never mention it because I'm kind of embarrassed about it?
Your question has kicked up a lot of controversy here at Savage Love HQ, and we're having some long drawn-out arguments about the gendered politics of this, or the sexual politics of this. Because if the genders were reversed, if you were a man and the person who had performed oral sex on you was a woman who was blackout drunk at the time and the next day couldn't remember anything and was calling friends, calling around and asking other people, not you, what happened that night, there is a way, there is a certain way that I would be expected to frame that, unpack that. There would be a certain approach that I would be obligated to take. But because the genders are reversed, and gender is a powerful thing, and sexual violence and pressures and the zap put on woman's head versus the zap put on men's head, and what's potentially traumatizing to a woman that isn't necessarily potentially traumatizing to a man, all that's very different, but still, every time I think about trying to answer your question, I just think there's a way I would answer this question if you were a man and the person who was blackout drunk who performed oral sex on you was a woman. And I'm not going to answer your question necessarily in that way because the genders are reversed. And is that fair? And is this something that we are required to be absolutely fair about? Does it not make any difference depending on who's in what role gender-wise in a moment like this, in an interaction like this? I kind of want to like step aside and toss it to the listeners and say, what do you guys think? 206-302-2064. But to answer your question, caller, what should you do? I think you should call the dude. I think you should tell the dude what happened. I have this hunch that the dude isn't asking you what happened that night because the dude is worried that you may feel violated or traumatized by what happened that night, that something sexual happened that night and he was too drunk to know what the fuck he was doing or to remember what the fuck happened. And I think his primary worry may be that something happened that left you feeling terrible or violated or raped or traumatized, and that he's afraid to approach you for fear of what he's going to hear from you, or for fear of re-traumatizing you, or re-triggering you or traumatizing you himself if he approaches you because he thinks it might have been a terrible, awful experience for you because he doesn't remember what the fuck happened because he was blackout drunk. So rather than asking you, he's asking around, because if it was a traumatizing experience for you, if he did something while he was blacked out that he wouldn't have done if he wasn't blacked out, that he regrets, that he was unwelcome or not consensual, maybe you would have confided in some mutual friends about that. And so that's why he's sussing those people out instead of going right to you. So calling him may be letting him off the hook. It may be a relief to him to hear from you that what went down that night was him on you, and that was fine with you, and he didn't behave in a way that wasn't welcome and wasn't consensual, and you feel bad now knowing that he was blackout drunk at the time and can't remember what happened, because you, I assume, as a good and ethical and smart and sensitive person, don't want to be having sex with people who are incapacitated by alcohol. Not drunk, not tipsy, not had a drop, not had a beer or two, but incapacitated. The problem with blackout drunk is you can't always tell who's fucking incapacitated. People say blackout drunk and they picture someone who's passed out on a couch with vomit rolling out of their mouths and can't stand up and has to be carried. No, those of us from alcoholic families, we've seen blackout drunks. And a blackout drunk can seem, in some cases, almost fucking not sober, but functional and capable of consenting to an argument, dinner, sex, whatever. So again, the sexual politics and the gendered politics of your question are highly, hugely problematic. And this is a minefield I feel like I'm tiptoeing through. And I'm going to hear from guys who feel like, and maybe they're right, that if you were a dude calling this question, I would light into you about the monster that you are for taking advantage of this poor blacked out girl. But because you're a girl and he went down on you, and men are always the default sexual aggressors and never the victims, although men are, of course, objects sometimes of sexual aggression and sometimes also victims, I'm going to go easy on you. But you asked me what you should do, and you should call the dude and you should tell him what happened and let him off the hook. Because if he is at all good and decent and kind, I expect that what he's most concerned about is not your behavior that night, but his behavior that night. Finding out from you that if anyone did something wrong that night, it might have been you, will come as a relief to him. Trips to the post office have probably become second nature to you. They seem easy because you've been doing your mailing and shipping that way for so long, but think about all the hassle. Dropping what you're doing, driving there, finding parking, waiting. There's a much better way. Stamps.com. Stamps.com is the easy and convenient way to get postage right from your desk. Buy and print official U.S. postage using your own computer and your own printer. With Stamps.com, there's no guesswork. They make it easy to get exact postage for any letter, any package, any class of mail the instant you need it. No expensive postage meters to lease and no more trips to the post office. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com, and before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in Savage. That's Stamps.com and enter Savage.
Hey, Dan. I'm a 28-year-old trans man living in Boston. I have a question for you about a friendship relationship. So about 5 or 6 years ago, I was in college and I met this cis guy while I was still female-bodied, and he and I got along so fucking great. We were best friends. We hung out all the time. And in the last 5 years, I've transitioned, so now I look like a man, and I'm very open about this. Like, it's all over my Facebook. And he and I are friends on Facebook, and I imagine that he's seen it. I wasn't living around him for the last 5 years, and now that he and I are back in the same part of the States, I've reached out to him a few times to try to hang out, and he'll say things like, yeah, dude, let's hang out, and then never get back to me. He was supposed to come into town last week, and he said he was going to call me to hang out, and he didn't. So my question is this. I don't know. Oh, wait, I should also tell you that while we were in college together, I gave him a blowjob, so that might also complicate things for him in his brain. My question is this. So I really miss this guy, and I don't know if it's because I look really different. Maybe he's kind of like skeezed out that a trans person gave him a blowjob. He's from the middle of nowhere, Maine. I say that because he's never met people that aren't like him before, and like that was apparent during our whole friendship. I don't want to apologize for being trans or being weird, and I'm not sure if I'm overthinking it. Maybe he's just busy. Maybe he forgot to call, or maybe he is squicked out.
I can't hunt down your friend, pry open his skull, and dig around in his gray matter until I come up with the answer and then bring that back to you. This is something that you can't really know if he's not willing to meet up with you or communicate with you in a real way or talk to you. You don't know why he doesn't want to hang out with you now or doesn't have time to hang out with you now. Maybe he has a problem with the trans thing. Maybe that makes him uncomfortable. Maybe he's never met a trans person before and that's it. Or maybe he's super busy and it's just not fitting into his schedule right now and he's got a full life and a lot of friends. And there's no more friendship bandwidth available to you at this time. Or maybe, hey, maybe you gave lousy head in college and he carries a grudge. Who knows? You don't know. I don't know. And there is no way to know. Sometimes you just have to shrug it off. Think maybe it's me, maybe it's him, maybe it's life. And go out there and make other friends. Every once in a while, if you feel so inclined, you can send out a feeler. You can say, hey, I'm going to be here or there, or we should hang out sometime. And if he never takes you up on it, there's your answer. He doesn't want to hang out with you. You can waste a lot of time and mental energy and emotional energy obsessing about why it is he might not want to hang out with you now. And maybe it's the obvious thing. Maybe it's the trans thing, or maybe it has nothing to do with the trans thing. But again, you can't know. Go hang out with people who have time for you, who like you, who accept you. Right now, he doesn't have time for you. We don't know whether he dislikes you or can't accept you. Instead of focusing on the possibility that he's transphobic or the possibility that he dislikes you for some other reason, and recriminating yourself about that or feeling bad about yourself because of these assumptions you're making about his attitude toward you, just focus on the first thing. Doesn't have the time right now to hang out with you. Go find people who have the time right now to hang out with you and be with them instead, rather than obsessing about why this person won't hang out with you or can't hang out with you right now. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Casper. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the cost. Casper is revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing those savings directly to the consumer. A Casper mattress provides long-lasting comfort and support, and I know this for a fact because me and my husband sleep on one every night. You can buy it easily online and completely risk-free. Casper offers free delivery and painless returns with a 100-day period, so you don't have to lie down in a showroom. And Casper's mattresses uphold the highest environmental production standards, and they're made right here in the USA. Get a Casper mattress for $500 for a twin or $950 for a king-size mattress. You can save an additional $50 as one of our listeners by going to casper.com/savage and entering the promo code SAVAGE. That's casper.com/savage and promo code SAVAGE. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Dan. I'm a 20-something from Seattle, and I was just calling to ask you a question about this summer's wedding season. So I was invited to a wedding in Texas by an old friend the same weekend that I was invited to a gal's weekend away at the beach. And my friend who's getting married is kind of from a previous time in my life, a more religious time where when I left the church, I also kind of left a lot of those relationships. And she and I, of course, were best friends at the time and have kind of maintained, but kind of not really, as our opinions continue to polarize. But I know that if I don't attend her wedding, then it will be a great kind of nail in the coffin of a friendship that's already, let's be honest, dead. We have not maintained very well, and I take half responsibility for that, but I know that I'll get full responsibility if I don't go to her wedding. The wedding's not going to be great for me. It's a lot of people from that time in my life, a lot of people who believe a lot of different things than I do, and I don't think that it's necessarily the best space for me, but especially when I could be sipping margaritas by the beach the same time. So I'd just be curious about your thoughts on wedding obligation.
Send a gift, go drink those margaritas, and don't worry about the end of a friendship that you aren't invested in anymore. These are people who are really out of your life. You shouldn't be stressing about this. And let's think for a second, or let's examine for a second why you might be stressing about this. Because not going to the wedding is going to create in your former friend's mind an accurate representation of the current state of your non-friendship. That she's going to figure out what you already know. That your friendship is essentially over. You would be creating a false impression by actually showing the fuck up. You would be creating an accurate impression by sending your warm wishes and kind regards, because presumably you do have some fond memories of this relationship, even if you don't want to be in this relationship anymore. So send a card, pick something off their wedding registry if you feel so inclined, mail them a gift, go drink margaritas on the beach with your current and actual friends.
Hi, Dan. I'm a 25-year-old straight female in a committed relationship with a 25-year-old straight guy. We've been together for almost 5 years, and everything, like, we love each other so deeply. Our relationship is perfect in nearly every way except for this one huge issue that's just come up. When I met him, when we started going out, I would find maybe 1 in every 20 men reasonably close distance in age to me attractive. But about a year and a half ago, my hormones kicked into overdrive, and now I want to fuck everybody I see. Like, I don't know if my body's ready to get pregnant or some bullshit, and I've tried to override it for so long. Like, I've read Sex at Dawn, I've read Opening Up, left them around the house, talked to my boyfriend about it, and after many talks and cries and all that, we've come to an impasse. He says that price of admission for him is monogamy. And I say price of admission for me is at least trying non-monogamy once. He can't deal with this. I don't want to lose him. I don't want to lose everything we've built up. He said that if I really can't keep my pants on, which I haven't cheated, haven't done anything, but if the opportunity arose, I might take advantage of it. He said that if I couldn't be monogamous, then we'd have to downgrade from boyfriend-girlfriend with potential marriage and babies and stuff and all that in the future to roommates with benefits, which he says that if I loved him enough, I wouldn't do that. It's not a question of love. It's just some weird animalistic desire, and I don't understand why it's bothering him so much. He said that he can see how it works for other people, but it can't work for him. And I'd like you to weigh in. If he called, would you tell him to DTMFA? Am I the motherfucker? I don't know what to do, and I think we're going to have to come to a decision soon.
You're both the motherfuckers. How about that? We'll just split the difference there. This isn't a question of love or affection. This is a question of irreconcilable differences. Coming to terms, being on the same page about monogamy is hugely important in a long-term relationship, and you guys aren't on the same page. And you're playing a game right now of price of admission bluff chicken, where his price of admission is absolute monogamy, your price of admission is you need license or you need non-monogamy or you need some monogamishemy in your life. And so one of you has to call the question. One of you has to issue the ultimate ultimatum and say, I am going to do X. And it's really going to have to be you, because right now you are defaulting monogamous because he wants monogamy. You've been monogamous up to this point. And if this really is something you can't live without, call his bluff. I'm going to do X. Now it's your move. And he says he threatened you with downgrade to roommates with benefits if you should start fucking other people, which means he imagines that even if you do start fucking other people, you're still going to live together and you're still going to have sex. So he imagines you'll still be in a relationship. So your counter chicken ass bluff calling ultimatum throwing price of admission identifying is, if I have sex with other people and that means a downgrade for the relationship, actually that means the end of the relationship, because I choose no relationship over roommates with benefits. So you can have me in a non-monogamous context as your girlfriend, potentially as your wife, lifelong partner, or you cannot have me at all. That's your price of admission. You got to throw that down, and you got to mean it if this is indeed what you want. And you know what? It is what you fucking want. And however much you love each other right now, for copacetic and wonderful everything else is, this dissatisfaction, this disconnect, this irreconcilable difference will creep and spread and poison everything else about the relationship in time. So better to hammer this out and come to some sort of agreement, even if the agreement is parting now while you're still friends and friendly, than to wait 10 years and 2 kids and then have this all explode in your faces.
Hi, Dan. I'm trying to figure something out, understand something, and understand if I'm kind of off base. I have a 17-year-old daughter, and she has a friend who will be visiting us later in the summer. This friend prefers the pronouns they, them, and they have what usually is considered a guy name, and they have an appearance of what one would say is traditionally male. I know that there's a romantic interest between the two of them. And my daughter, she's 17, the friend is, I don't know, freshman or something in college. My daughter wants to know if they can stay in her room. She said she likes to cuddle. She does have sex. She has good birth control. So I'm not worried about her getting pregnant. The 2 bedrooms, her bedroom is upstairs, the other room is upstairs. And my first inclination is to have them stay in, them being her friend, have them stay in the other bedroom. But of course, they're right next to each other. There's nothing to keep the 2 of them apart. I feel really uncomfortable or strange because I don't want to support my daughter having sex in the sense that I don't want to say, sure, free for all, doesn't matter, which I kind of feel like if I say the 2 of them can share her bed, that's what is going on, even though I fully understand there could be sneaking around. So I'm a little confused about that. And the confusion here, I guess, is I assume they have a penis, but I don't know, and that may not be the case. And there could be something there. The person could have a vagina. The person could have something in between. I have no idea. And I'm sorry, I keep saying the person. I mean they. The weird thing is, if I thought they had a vagina, I'd feel differently. I wouldn't feel as skittish about having the 2 of them share a room. So I'm kind of weirded out in a way. It's like I have a penis bias. And I don't care who the penis is attached to in terms of identity and preferences, any of that. My daughter says I'm trans biased. I don't know where her friend leans or is interested. I understand that's private. My daughter says it's none of my business. I get it. And I finally told her, I said, okay, my husband and I agreed. They can share a room because otherwise it's kind of bullshit, the idea that, no, you share one room and you have the other room. And, there's the realities of people doing whatever they want. I just don't understand my little bias against a penis, since I know the odds of her getting pregnant are slim to none. And we already said, sure, they can stay with you in your room, but I still have this part of me that keeps saying, as a parent, my duty is to do whatever I can to ensure my daughter isn't having sex, even though I fully support her having birth control. So I feel like I'm like a hamster going round and round.
A few months ago, I gave a talk in San Francisco, and before the talk, I had sort of a small group meeting with some teenagers from the youth group associated with the organization that brought me in, and had an interesting exchange with this young woman who was annoyed that her parents were so much more obsessively worried about her physical safety as she began to date than they ever had been about her brothers. She had older brothers, and her parents weren't hovering, and they weren't minding, and they weren't as concerned, and she thought this was a sexist double standard. And I sat there and scratched my head and then opened my mouth and got myself into trouble, which is what I do for a living. Because as a parent, I could certainly understand why her parents would be more concerned about her safety as she moved into dating, because she was a young woman who was dating men. And we are, on the one hand, hyper-conscious, as we should be, increasingly, of intimate partner violence, of rape, of date rape, of coercion, of blurry consent, of all the shitty things that men do. Louis C.K. has this great routine where he jokes about how amazing it is that women will even talk to men, considering that the leading cause of death for women is men. That a woman going on a date with a man, Louis C.K. says, and I'm not doing the bit justice, and you should Google it and look it up, is like a woman going on a date with a bear. Gosh, I hope he doesn't eat me this time, or this one doesn't eat me. So yeah, as a parent, I could understand. If I had a daughter and she was moving into dating, I would be more concerned for her safety and welfare than if I had a son who was moving into dating. As the parent of a son, what I was really hypervigilant about with my son was to make sure that he was a safe person for other young people, for young women to date, to try to control for what the culture encouraged him to believe that he was entitled to, or what testosterone does to the brain, right? To try to get in between that. So your concerns, caller, about your daughter and whether her agender friend has a penis, and factoring that penis into your concerns and being more concerned than you might be if her agender friend had a vagina, seems to me perfectly rational because of violence, because of how awful male-bodied people can be, whether they're agender or not, to the women that they are with or pursuing or wanting. Sometimes it feels like half the calls we get are from women who are being abused, if not physically, sometimes just emotionally, socially, by the men who want them and can't have them. And also pregnancy and disease. Pregnancy likelier to impact your daughter's life than this person's life if they have a penis. Sexually transmitted infections pass from male-bodied persons to female-bodied persons more efficiently and easily. Your daughter's at risk for more than her agender friend might be at risk for in this arrangement. And so your concern isn't a sexist double standard, and for fuck's sake, there's nothing trans fucking phobic about it, or agender phobic about it, or phobic about it at all. You're being phobic, fearful about anything here. You're being fearful about things that, as a parent and a woman, you're rational to be slightly phobic about, or concerned about, or want to control for. All that said, I think you're making the right call, letting them come to your house and letting them stay with your daughter in your daughter's room, if that's the choice that your daughter wants to make. Make sure the guest room is available to that person. Make sure the guest room is available to them and they have a place to unpack and another room to spread out in. But look to the Dutch. The Dutch allow the partners of their teenage children to have sleepovers, to have intercourse, better in the house than sneaking around. Better your daughter have you there in her home at this time than if your daughter went and what? She's 17, almost an adult. Tick-tock, the months are flying by, right? Better than your daughter spending the weekend with them in some shitty hotel because they couldn't come and stay at your house. Better this way. But your daughter needs to chill the fuck out. Of course you're more concerned if this person is a penis haver, because there are certain emotional, social, and sexual dynamics that come bundled with that penis having thing. Not in all cases, but in enough cases that you're right to be concerned and right to set the bar a little higher and right to want to control for it to whatever extent you can as a loving parent to someone who is still a minor and still living in your house. If anything else, just they knowing that this person that they're coming to see, your daughter, has vigilant and concerned parents who will be present, that all by itself is a good thing. That increases the likelihood that your daughter will be safe with them. You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing it right. Don't let your daughter's bullshit charges of transphobia stay your hand or shut your mouth.
Hi, Dan. This is for the lady who has the crazy ex leaving stuff everywhere with the co-parenting dog thing going on. I can say that I've been on the other side of that. I was the ex. We did have a dog together, and I know it sounds stupid, but honestly, that was my excuse to kind of stay in my ex's life. And he was the type that wanted to keep me in his life, but also wanted a new girlfriend. Very manipulative. I was kind of manipulative with it too. It's a long story, but we're past it and I've grown. But I will say to her, if he isn't saying anything, like you said, then there's a problem. I hope she figures it out and finds the strength to either say no or confront him about it.
To all the people who are thinking of voting for Jill Stein because she's, quote, the best person for the job, why not think bigger? I mean, you're breaking free of the two-party system to vote for the candidate of your dreams, and all you can come up with is Jill Stein? Why not vote for the greatest politician ever, the man who steered us to the scariest conflict of the 20th century, and who is responsible for the modern social state? I am speaking, of course, of FDR. Now, you may say that's absurd. FDR is dead, and he has a 0% chance of getting elected. But Jill Stein only has a 0.1 chance of getting elected, so there's only a 0.1% difference between them. Why let a 0.1% difference get in the way of voting for the best candidate? Why would you vote for somebody who's not as qualified just because she's slightly more electable because she happens to be alive? After all, aren't your principles more important than real-world considerations? Vote for the best possible candidate and accept nothing less. Vote FDR.
Hi, Dan. This is a comment about your last show about the guy who's wondering who's going to take care of him in his old age if he doesn't have kids. Listen, the money he'll save on not having kids, he can afford a really cute nurse to take care of him and change all the diapers he wants. Kids are majorly expensive. He doesn't have kids, he'll have plenty of money to hire whoever he wants.
And we're going to leave it there. 206-302-2064 is the number here at the Savage Lovecast. If you want to record a question or a comment for a future show, give us a buzz. 206-302-2064. Follow me on Twitter at FakeDanSavage. Follow Ira Madison III on Twitter at Ira. The Savage Lovecast is produced every week by Nancy Hartunian and me and the tech-savvy at-risk youth and Nancy. We will all be back at you next week with another installment of the Savage Lovecast. Thanks for downloading.